So this is the cover of a book written by Rebbe Lozer Shlomo Schick. It was it was a confidant of his. I mean, I really needed him at one time, and he came through for me like a big-time way of introducing me into BRESLOV, introducing me into how to learn, and the importance of connection with Hashem all the time. And so he has this translation and explanation of the stories of Rabbi Nachman, which you can get. They're available, and they're easy enough stories to read. The question is that they have secret meanings, and trying to figure out what they are. So this is Sipuri Maisios, that is the saying over of these stories, and it has a pirush, an explanation, which is called Nahari Aparsimon, the rivers of Parsimon, which is a perfume. So that's brought over there. So let's just read the top of where we were, because what we're really working on right now is reading the pirush of Rav Lozer Shlomo Schick. So this story is called, once again, it's called the fifth. This is the fifth story, and it's Ben Melech Shehoya Ma'avanim Tovos. This is the son of the king, prince, who was made out of precious stones. So he said, let's go back at this again, and let's just read the top of this, and then we'll try to pick up and learn, with God's help, a little bit of the pirush of Rav Lozer Shlomo Schick. There's a story about a king that had no children. He went to doctors, because if he had no children, then his kingdom would be turned over to strangers, and that would not be good for him. So he made a gezerah on the Jews. Why? That she should pray for him. They should have children. So what did the Jews do? They went out and they looked for a person, Machabsim Tzaddik, and they looked for a person who's called a Tzaddik. A Tzaddik here means a person who is so pure that he has a pipeline to Hashem and he could pray. He really knows how to pray. For Kadeshi is Pala V'yipal Shehi Yechel Labanan, so there should be pray, and there should come about that he'll have children. The big Shechel B'maltzut Tzaddik Ganu, so they searched, they found a hidden Tzaddik. He said they got to pray. He said you got to pray so that the king can have children. But he says, look, I have no idea. I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what to do. But it was known, it became known to the king. So the king sent his emissary. He says the emissary is called, I'm guessing in Yiddish, an okas, achrav. So he sent this man, and they brought him to the king. The king started speaking to him in a very nice way. Hello, Ata Yudea, you know, I had the Jews in my hand. I can do whatever I want with them. So therefore I seek from you, Betov, in the best possible intentions, that you should pray, and then I should have children. So but he promised him that he will have a child in that year. That's what the tzaddik said. He says, I promise you, you'll have a child in that year. The halak, the makomo, and he went to his place. In other words, he turned home. So the queen gave birth to a daughter that year. She was gorgeous. When she was 4 years old, she knew all different kinds of wisdom, and she knew how to play musical instruments. And she knew all the languages of the world. And kings came from all over the world just to see her. And it was a tremendous joy to the king. But then the caliph had started to yearn Ma'od, Sheyihi lo ben, that should have a son. The daughter was wonderful, fantastic, but he needed actually a boy. Kadei Shalo, so that Shalo Tihya Musevis Amalchus, so that should not be moved or lost. His kingdom should not be lost. Le'ishazar, to some foreign guy. The Gazer Shuv ala Yehudim, and he made another Gezerah on the Jews. She is Palal Sheyiyu lo ben, that they should pray that he should have a son. V'choyim evakshim amachapsim es atzadik. And now, so what did they do? They went out and they started to seek, and they searched all over for the tzaddik. But they couldn't find him. Why not? Kikuvar nifter, because he was not in this world anymore. He was out of the world. He was excused from his service here. Big show owed tzaddik ganos, and they looked more, and they found another tzaddik who was hidden away. And they said to him that she should give. You need to pray that the king should have a son. But he said, "Look, I have no idea." But it became known to the king. And it went through the same process. And he said this, he says, "I could do whatever I want to the Jews. You better do something for me." He says, "Are you able to do what I command you to do?" So the Melech says, "Hey, yes." So he said, the Chacham says, I want you to bring all the different kinds of precious gems. Because every single gem, he says, has a different treasure within it. Because there is a book that the angels have. I think it maybe the kings have. Where they indicate all the different types of gems. Now, the Melech says, so the book the kings have. The kings have a book of all jewels. He says, I will give half of my kingdom if I could have a child. So he went about doing it, and he went all over the world, and he found all different kinds of jewels. And so the Chacham took it. So now he's not called a tzaddik here, he's called a Chacham now. He's showing his wisdom, what he can see. And he ground them up. So then he took a cup of wine. Nasa the Selcho Vanasa, and they put this ground up powder of all of these precious jewels. Vanasa because Amela the Shtais Vechetza the Malka, and he had half of the cup drank by the king and half by the queen. And he says, you're going to have a son. That the whole of the son should be made out of precious stones. And he will do all of the treasures, all of the talents, all of the tremendousness that's in all of each one of these stones, shall call Avonim Tovos, V'hala the Makomo. So he went to his place then. He went back home. V'yalda ben. Well, it took place that the queen had a son. V'nasa simcha gedoylach alamelech, and it became a tremendous simcha for the king. V'chaven hanoled, but this son that was born, lo koyim avonim tovos, he wasn't made out of precious stones, like the Chacham had said. Because the son was now 4 years old. And it came about, ben arba shanim, that the son was 4 years old. Hayafas Torah, he once again tremendously handsome ma'od. The Chacham Gadol, he tremendously wise. He knew all the sciences and all of the principles of mathematics. Every complicated idea he knew. But not only that, but he could speak in all languages. And kings came just to see him. Now here's the rest of the story going on. So he said, "V'Rababas Malka Rasa she'ena chashuva kol kach v'nizkono bo." But now the princess, who was so precious and so gorgeous and so talented, he says that now she became very, very jealous of him. Rak zos chayzet nechamasa, but there was only one thing that gave her comfort. Because the tzaddik had said that the son that was the product of drinking this mixture of ground gems would be made out of avonim tovos, jewels. Tov she'enim avonim tovos. He said it was good because he wasn't. He was just a normal child. Now let's go over here and let's just read a little bit of the story of Rav Shik. And as we can, his Pirush, and he says, so here we go. Nope, I didn't get it yet. Found it. Took a while. So he says the princess. This really refers to the Gentile nations. Rasa, she saw that she wasn't the center of attention anymore. Miskanabo, and she became very jealous of him. So this, Mashakal Umas Olam is where you see that all of the nations of the world, Mekanim Benishamos Yisrael, they're all jealous of the Jews. Ad Kedei Kach, until such an extent, Sha'amar Chachmei Gedosh, and the rabbis write like this: Miyom Shekib Lecha Yisrael HaTorah Al Har Sinai, from the time that we received the Torah on Mount Sinai, and many people don't know. The fact is that the word Sinai really is the word Sina, which means hate. That once we achieved that level of closeness with the creator of the universe, problems developed with the Gentiles. That's Sinai. Yarda Sina, this causes hate to fall into the Lumas Olam, Al-Am Olam, so basically Lumas Olam, Al-Am Olam, on all of the different nations. Al-Am Olam, I guess he has this phrase, Am Olam. I'm a little concerned about what it means. He said the translation is, he says, Yarda Sina L'Umas Olam, hate, fell, so to speak, from that lofty place of Mount Sinai. L'Umas Olam, Al-Am Olam, are the people of the world. Who are the people of the world? Shehem Neshamas Yisrael. We're here, that phrase refers to the Neshamas of the Jewish people. Because the whole world really is depending and standing on those principles, on the principles of Har Sinai. Rak zos chaya nachamasa, but principles, okay. Rak zos chaya nachamasa, but this really was the only comfort that the Bas had. Because he said that the son would be made completely and totally out of precious stones. That he would be full of mitzvahs. That's really many of the good deeds. He would be a good person. He would be full of avonim tovos. So this is what it means when it says beautiful stones. Beautiful stones, a precious stone, means the precious stones that one collects when he does the mitzvahs. So in the end, he says, well, good, so he's not made out of wonderful mitzvahs. Shabagalu saying it, so he explains like this. Rav Shik says that in our exile, Rucha, that is so long, the real grace and the real importance, everybody looks up to the Gentiles, who etzlam. Vein roim as a yofi sham neshamas Yisrael, are not able to see the beauty of the neshamas of the Jewish people. Shehem alayim mitzvos gariban, that we're full of mitzvos like a pomegranate. Kamaimim zal Rebbe zel ha'rekonim shabach, even those who are really empty from you, Mitzvahs karimon. They're full of mitzvahs anyway, even though it's like they're not doing anything. So margalios. So these are the precious stones, the pearls, sheyesh b'kol bar Yisrael, that every Jew has. That is our mitzvahs. But now that we're in this bitter exile, so now they've been hidden. All these wonderful things that really produce tremendous beauty into the world, they're all hidden. Tovas shebehem, and you can't see them on the outside at all because the Jews are so lowly. That is, in the eyes of the world. And the world, let's face it, we have to all make a living. We all have to be able to eat and have shelter. So there's competition for this. We're on the bottom to a great extent. And that the Umas Alom, they praise the neshamas of the Jews. So in other words, they're not able to do that. There's nothing they can see in Jews because they don't appear on the outside. What we're doing doesn't appear. Like Rebbetzka, and Kedar, like the tents of Kedar. Now this is the way that people live in the Middle East. The outside of their houses look like nothing, but when you walk into the house is very beautiful. So there's the same thing about the Jewish people. On our outsides, we're just regular people, or we're even lowly in the eyes of most. Now that there's a war in Israel, so everybody's saying, well, what do we do to deserve this? These lowly people are fighting. And we're constantly looking at that way. But inside of us, there is this tremendous beauty. The same thing with the Talmidei Chacham. Even though they're looking very, very ugly in this world, but inside of themselves, they're full of all kinds of mitzvahs and beautiful, beautiful things. Mikra, and what are those things? Mikra, we're just reading the 5 books of Moses and the written Torah. Mishnah, oral Torah, Talmud. This is a higher level of oral Torah. Halachos, v'agados, different halachos and different stories. Yes, neshamas Yisrael kasha the rose yafyan the bechutz. Because here this is a key. As neshamas Yisrael, these neshamas, and the word neshama generally means the penimius, what's inside of the Jew. Kasher laros yafyan the bechutz. It's difficult to show the tremendous beauty outside, to the outside world. Why? Me riboy ol hagolos, because of the tremendous nature, the power of the yoke of this exile. Sha'alechem, that the Jewish people have, that we have on us, we live in exile. V'chein Amar Rabbeinu Zal. Shemibechutz, from the outside. Yesher l'haker as a tzaddik klal. You wouldn't know when you look at a person who is really trying to be righteous. You wouldn't know that because everything that he's trying to do is in penimius, it's in for his soul. Rak mebifnim hu inyan acher legamri. But when you go inside, it's a completely different thing altogether. So generally speaking, the neshamas of the Jews are called tzaddikim. So that what's the penimius of the Jew? Kamosha Kasa, the pasuk says like v'amech, your people, kulam tzaddikim, are all righteous people. So therefore umas ha'olam mizgarim b'nishmas Yisrael. So therefore the nations themselves, they fight. They're opposing us. They're trying to have the neshamas Yisrael shelo roim as a yofi, because they're not able to see what we have inside of us. And all those precious jewels that the Jews have, and so therefore they take comfort in the fact that they can't see it, and they're better than us. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kolo.